Have you ever found yourself invaded by thoughts that seem to come out of nowhere and refuse to leave, no matter how much you try to ignore them? These unwanted thoughts can take over your mind, making any moment of peace almost impossible to achieve. Now, here's something few people realize: these intrusive thoughts are not enemies you need to eliminate. The truth is, fighting them only increases the power they hold over you. What truly works, and what Buddhist philosophy has been teaching for centuries, is a completely different and much more effective approach. Stay with me, and you'll see that by applying these practices, intrusive thoughts will no longer control your mind. The solution is within your reach, and the path to achieving it is much simpler than you might imagine. Intrusive thoughts are like unwanted visitors that invade the mind without warning. They appear suddenly, repeating themselves, and it feels like there's no way to control them. For those who deal with this, it feels like being helpless, at the mercy of these thoughts, unsure of how to handle them. It's common to feel trapped in this mental cycle, and the more you try to push the thoughts away, the more persistent they become. Imagine being in the middle of an important meeting or simply trying to relax at home, and suddenly, that uncomfortable idea reappears. Why won't it leave? Why does it insist on showing up at the worst moments? Many people who experience this feel powerless, as if their minds are out of control. However, it's important to understand that, frustrating as this experience may be, it is not uncommon. At some point, we all face these kinds of thoughts, but wisdom teaches us that there is another way to handle them. This is where the great Buddhist teaching comes in. By understanding that these thoughts are not an essential part of who we are, we can begin to observe their intrusion with greater clarity. It's not about forcefully eliminating them, but about learning to live with them wisely. This approach not only provides relief, but also opens the way to understanding how to transform this mental experience. Now, let's dive deeper into how Buddhism offers tools to deal with this restless mind. In Buddhism, there is a fascinating concept known as the monkey mind. Picture a monkey jumping from branch to branch, restless, always on the move. That's how our minds behave when they are full of intrusive thoughts. They leap from one idea to another, without rest, creating real mental chaos. This state of agitation is the source of the thoughts that seem out of control. It's as if the mind is constantly alert, reacting to every stimulus, without focus or direction. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that it is possible to tame this monkey. It is not an easy task, but with patience and discipline, this restless mind can be calmed. One of Buddhism's great teachings is that our minds can be trained, just like a wild animal, to bring focus and tranquility. Tools like meditation and mindfulness are invaluable resources for those who wish to control this mental agitation. Imagine how it would feel to direct your thoughts clearly instead of being dominated by them. This process of taming the mind doesn't mean fighting against intrusive thoughts, but observing their nature and allowing them to dissipate. It's like watching the monkey gradually calm down until it decides to stop jumping from branch to branch. With practice and persistence, the mind begins to find its peace. And this is where mindfulness becomes a powerful key to unlocking this state of serenity. Mindfulness, or full awareness, is the key that opens the door to controlling intrusive thoughts. Instead of letting the mind be overwhelmed by the whirlwind of ideas, mindfulness teaches us to focus on the present moment. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to see thoughts as they are, just thoughts. This gives us the freedom to observe what passes through our minds without being swept away by those mental currents. For example, imagine that during a walk, an uncomfortable thought arises. Instead of reacting, mindfulness practice allows you to observe this thought like a cloud passing by in the sky. It's there, you notice it, but you don't have to follow where it leads. This brings a deep sense of control and freedom. By focusing on your breath or the sensations in your body, you anchor yourself in the present moment, and the thoughts lose their grip on you. Buddhist teaching is clear. The more you practice mindfulness, the easier it becomes to live in the present, without being hijacked by the monkey mind. The key is to practice daily, in simple moments like sipping a cup of tea or feeling the touch of water during a bath. With this constant practice, intrusive thoughts begin to fade. One of the most profound ways to apply this principle is through meditation. Buddhist meditation is one of the oldest and most effective practices to calm the restless mind and observe intrusive thoughts without clinging to them. Contrary to what many think, meditation is not about forcing the mind to be blank, but allowing thoughts to come and go without your involvement. It's like sitting by a river, watching the leaves float by without needing to pick them up. This detachment is a powerful tool for those seeking mental peace. When you sit to meditate, the mind may initially feel like a battlefield. Thoughts arise, competing for your attention, but Buddhist practice teaches you to observe them with compassion, without judgment. Gradually, through repetition, this practice calms the internal agitation. The silence of the mind is not the absence of thoughts, but the absence of attachment to them. The wisdom lies in realizing that we don't need to fight these thoughts, just accept them and let them go. For beginners, a simple meditation of 5 minutes a day can make a significant difference. Choose a quiet place, sit comfortably, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. Each inhale and exhale is an anchor that brings you back to the present. Over time, this practice becomes more natural, and the mind finds its silence. The next step on this journey is understanding the power of detaching from thoughts. Detachment is one of the deepest teachings of Buddhism, and applying it to intrusive thoughts can be transformative. The secret lies in recognizing that not every thought needs to be fed or fought. Often, when we try to fight against an uncomfortable idea, we only give it more strength. The wisdom is in accepting the thought's presence without identifying with it. It's like hearing a distant sound, you acknowledge it's there, but you don't need to focus on it. This concept can be applied in everyday life. Imagine that, during a moment of work, a disturbing idea arises. Instead of resisting it, simply recognize that it's there and let it pass. There's no need to delve into the thought or react to it. With practice, this process becomes more natural and less exhausting. Buddhist teaching shows us that we can live in peace with our thoughts without clinging to them as if they were absolute truths. Detachment is not an attitude of indifference, but of freedom. When we accept that thoughts are fleeting, we release a huge weight from our minds. This gives us space to focus on the present and connects us more deeply with our essence. And here, the principle of impermanence helps us understand this mental dynamic even further. At the heart of Buddhist philosophy is the concept of impermanence, the understanding that everything is transient, including thoughts. When we understand that even the most disturbing thoughts are temporary, we free ourselves from the pressure to control them. Just as a storm passes and the sky clears, intrusive thoughts also come and go. This teaching brings immediate relief, reminding us that nothing in the mind is permanent, not even discomfort. Impermanence teaches us that, Just as emotions and life events change, our thoughts are also in constant flux. There's no need to despair or try to hold on to them. They arise, follow their course, and eventually disappear. This wisdom is a powerful antidote to the anxiety and stress that intrusive thoughts can cause. Each time we remind ourselves of the temporary nature of thoughts, we feel a greater sense of lightness. This understanding is not just theoretical, it can be experienced in practice. The next time an uncomfortable thought arises, remember, it won't last forever. Take a deep breath and watch how it dissolves over time. Buddhist practices like meditation and mindfulness strengthen this awareness, showing that with patience, the mind can find tranquility. And this is where continuous practice becomes essential to maintaining this mental peace. Taming the mind and dealing with intrusive thoughts is not something that can be achieved overnight. Continuous practice is fundamental, and Buddhism teaches us that this journey requires patience and persistence. Just like a gardener who tends to their garden daily, watering and pruning the plants, we must also care for our minds, training them day by day. The practice of meditation and mindfulness is like that gardening. The more you practice, the more beautiful and peaceful the mind becomes. This daily journey doesn't need to be long or complicated. Even a few minutes a day dedicated to meditation can bring significant results. It could be when you wake up, before you go to sleep, or even during small pauses throughout the day. What's important is consistency. The monkey mind, that jumps from thought to thought, begins to calm over time, and intrusive thoughts lose their strength. Think of it like strengthening a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that mental transformation is a gradual process, but one that is deeply rewarding. Persisting in this practice brings the greatest results. Over time, thoughts that once seemed uncontrollable become distant echoes, and you will find a sense of peace and clarity that once felt unreachable. And it is precisely this journey of transformation that we will explore next. The journey of mental transformation is exactly that, a path of constant evolution. Every day that we dedicate ourselves to practices like meditation and mindfulness, we take steps toward freeing ourselves from intrusive thoughts. Buddhist philosophy teaches us that, over time, these thoughts lose their power over us. The key is daily practice and patience, for just as a tree takes time to grow, our minds also need time to transform. The beauty of this journey is that it doesn't have to be solitary. By adopting these practices, you begin to connect with others who are also seeking a calmer and clearer mind. Sharing experiences, learning together, and observing how the mind transforms over time is an essential part of this process. Every step, no matter how small, is a step toward mental peace. This is what Buddhist teaching offers, a path of wisdom and self-discovery. And this mental transformation has no end, for there are always new levels of clarity and serenity to be reached. So, with each practice, with each moment of mindfulness, remember that you are cultivating a freer, lighter mind. And if you want to continue on this journey, keep exploring Buddhist philosophy and its connection to mental health. Share your experiences, subscribe, and keep learning, because this is only the beginning of a path that can transform your life.